Hello dear students, in this section of video I will tell you some of the important examples with respect to the different characteristic features which the living organisms they hold and the definition based on those characters for the living organisms. So most of the scientists they have tried to explain and tried to define the definition for the life and what is the ultimate extract which we are getting from the different minds and different scientists is basically life. It is an ultimate question and it can be answered like this on the basis of the views which are being expressed by the different scientists. So basically life is a unique and complex organization of the different molecular or you can say biological ionic systems which altogether coordinate and behave in a particular manner so as to support the life activities. So basically living organisms they are composed of cells. The cells they divide and the body of the organism it shows the growth due to the increase in the number of the cells. As you can see, tree is basically a plant and it's a living organism which shows the process of growth while the non-living objects like pen, water and you can see the road they are non-living and which don't show such type of characteristics. So most of the living organisms they are having the ability to grow, reproduce, to sense their environment and to provide a suitable response. Living organisms basically they have the attributes which may include the metabolism, ability to self-replicate, that is reproduction, self-organize, that is you can say the cellular basis which they are having in their system is maintaining overall growth and developmental pattern of the organism. They interact and they emerge. A multicellular organism basically grows by the division of cells. So in order to define what is living and what are the characteristics of a living organism, we need to conventionally think of those characteristic features which are exhibited by the organisms and which distinguish them from the non-living matter. So all the organisms basically whether they are living or non-living they have one thing common, that is they are basically made up of the basic elements, that is they are having the atomic structure in which most of the composition they carry are of these or you can say certain elements are there. So carbon is basically present in most of the living and non-living organisms. Hydrogen is there, nitrogen is there, oxygen is there, because most of these elements were they are forming the majority of the biospherical composition of our earth, and the living and non-living things they are also subjected to these physical laws such as gravitation, magnetism or any other physical conditions like radiations and whatever be the natural processes occurring over the surface of the earth. It may include tides or solar composition or change in the energy frequencies by lunar eclipse, solar eclipse likewise. So still the living organisms are different from non-living matter, and it's because some of the basic fundamental characteristics they are having, that is they have the presence of protoplasm, cellular organization, nutrition, metabolism, growth, reproduction, responses to the environment, that is stimuli they are having. So These all together, they are forming the physical basis of life, as grouped by, or you can say suggested by, one of the scientists, that is Huxley, in the year 1863. So let's see what are the different characteristics of the living organisms, based on which we can say that a particular example which is being placed to identified it as a living or a non-living structure, we can categorize it very clearly. So in that category, we are having the first character, that most of the organisms, they are showing the growth. So what is growth? Growth is basically defined as the increase in size and masses, or mass of the organism during its development over the period of time, and it is measured as an increase in biomass, and it is associated with the cell division by mitosis. So subsequent increase in cell size and with the differentiation of the cells to perform particular functions, it may lead to the growth of the organism. So I have taken the example of the two different organisms. One is the example of a seed which is being when placed into the soil, it emerges into the plantlet, and ultimately it grows and forms a plant which ultimately reproduces to form seeds. So likewise, the plants, they are completing their life cycle, and they are showing the different stages of growth in the particular organism. Likewise, in case of animals, including human beings, as you can see here, we are seeing the different stages of growth in the lifespan of a human being. So as soon as a baby is born, and whatever the environmental influence it is having over its body, it may lead to certain changes, different growth patterns and development, and ultimately at the different stages of the life, they are having different outlooks, that is morphological and anatomical changes. So these are basically pertain to the growth, what their body is showing. So here you can see the simple example, that change in the height of the organism when from infant to an adult species, and later on it basically carry the same character of the body. So it is basically the example of growth. Likewise, movement and locomotion. So movement is basically when the living organisms moves its body part or entire body to bring out a change from one position to the different position where it wants to do that, either with respect to the type of nutrition it is willing to have, or either from escaping from the enemies from one place to another place. Likewise, locomotion is when the movement of a part of the body, it leads to the change in the position and location of the organism. So let's see what different examples we are having here. I am giving one of the example of this insect. This is a ladybird. So we can see whenever this organism it needs to have the requirement of the nutrition, it may hovers over the surface of the flower, and ultimately takes up these liquids or the nutrient containing fluids which is being secreted by the plant body, and afterwards for mating and other purposes it moves, and the type of movement which is being shown by this insect is the flying movement. So this is how most of the organisms, they are able to show the movement, and their body is showing the locomotion. Likewise, the next very essential character which is able to distinguish the living organisms from the non-living organisms is response to stimulus. So the simplest type of response is a direct one-to-one or one stimulus response reaction. A change in the environment is basically a stimulus. The reaction of the organism to its response basically based on the sensitivity it is being received by the system. So in a single cell organism, the response is the result of the property of this cell. So most of the amoebas or paramecium, they are showing they are photosensitive. So whenever these organisms, they are being kept in the lab conditions and such experiments are being performed over them, so they are showing the photosensitive nature, and they used to behave in that particular way, and this leads to signify us that most of the organisms, whether they are unicellular, multicellular, and whatever be the category of those organisms, either plant, animals, so they show the response to the stimulus what they are getting from the environment. So likewise we can take the example of a plant which is a multicellular organism, and how it could show this behavior in this pattern. So as you can see here, when this plant is getting the stimulus from the environment, that is in the form of light, how the stems and the leaves of this plant is showing the bending pattern towards the photosensitivity of the light. So you can see how beautifully the plant is able to being lean out or showing the bending movement towards the window, where the plant is able to get the photoactive, or you can say photosynthetic receptors through the sunlight. So this is basically the type of sensitivity the plant is being sensing in this form, and this response is being shown by the bending nature or curvature of the plant. So this is the very best example. Likewise, you can also see the example of Mimosa pudica, or you can see touch me not plant. Whenever a person or any organism is being in contact with those plants, so what the plant is being how the plant it behaves, basically the leaves, they are being drooping down due to the stimulus they are receiving with respect to the touch of the organism. So it's also a typical example of response to stimuli. Likewise, the very next character is the reproduction. So reproduction is basically a fundamental feature of all known living species. So each individual organism, they exist as a result of reproduction. So basically there are two forms of reproduction. Either they can reproduce asexually, where there is no need of the different type of gametes, and in case of sexual reproduction, we need to have two different type of or sets of organisms and gametes for the formation of the sexual structure, that is the zygote. So in case of asexual reproduction, an organism can reproduce without the involvement of another organism. Likewise, I have shown you, I have taken the example of the sexual reproduction and how the flowers they reproduce. So you can see a pollen here, and the flower is overall carrying the structure of the different types of gametes. So altogether, when these gametes they fuse, see this pollen grain, when it lands over the surface of the stigma of the you can say ovary, ultimately it moves and fertilizes with the egg nuclei, and it may lead to the formation of the zygote, as you can see it here or the picture where the zygote is being shown. And then this zygote, it ultimately develops into an embryo, and this embryo will ultimately turn up into a seed, and this seed is actually the future plant, which is being when implanted into the soil, it actually grows up and ultimately forms the next species, or you can say the plant. So this is how the organisms they reproduce sexually when we are taking the example of the plants. Likewise, the growth of the organism, it is being shown here when we implant the seeds. So reproduction is basically a character which the living organisms they are having, and non-living organisms they are not, they are lacking this property. So The next important feature of living organisms is respiration. So respiration is basically the process in which the organism is able to break down the food, either with the presence of oxygen or without the presence of oxygen. So most of the organisms, when we are taking the example of the animals, so they are having the respiratory structures in their body, and this system it actually works and takes up the oxygen and discharges the carbon dioxide in order to satisfy the energy requirements of the organism. So in the living organism, the energy is being liberated along with the carbon dioxide through the oxidation method. So basically the aerobic type of respiration method is being shown here with the different examples. As you can see here, it is a flatworm of planaria, and whenever the body, in this case the body wall of the organism, basically it is the member of flatworms. So what happens, the body takes up the oxygen through the membrane, skin membrane, and ultimately it releases the carbon dioxide, as you can see here, through the membrane. Likewise, when we'll take the example of the fishes, which are basically belonging to the category of the vertebrates. So here you can see the gill slits. So gills, they are the natural structures in the fishes where the exchange of gases it is being taking place. So you can see here how the oxygen is being infiltrated and CO2 is being excreted out by the gills. Likewise, when we'll take the example of the invertebrata, here one of the arthropod is being taken out, and you can see these spiracles are the structures basically where the exchange of oxygen and CO2 is being taken place. Likewise, in case of mammals, we are the examples of mammals. So here the lungs of the human beings, it is being shown here, and so what happens, our lungs, they carry the ultimate structure, that is alveolus. Alveoli, they are the interfaces where the exchange of oxygen and CO2 is being going on, and ultimately we are respiring, and the ultimate reaction, that is the conversion of energy molecules by the oxidative breakdown by utilization of O2 and formation of carbon dioxide, is being taken at the cellular level. So this was ultimately the example, that is a basic character which the living organism they are holding. Likewise, the next important category of the character which the organisms, living organism, they are having is excretion. So as you know, whatever type of chemical is being generated or created inside our body, when the ultimate reactions or metabolic processes are being you can say it has happened inside the cell, then the ultimate product which is being formed of after the completion of reaction, and when it is being not at all needed by the body, they need to be excreted out, or you can say it has to be eliminated from the body, because it is not no longer it is in our body is in need of that particular substance. So for that process through which the body, it removes those chemicals from our body, either in the form of liquid waste or in the form of gaseous waste. Body is using different type of mechanisms for that, and that process is basically the excretion process. So excretion is the process that that biological organisms use to expel or eliminate the waste products produced by their metabolisms. So the process of excretion, it actually collects these waste, and then we are getting rid of those from the cells. So in multicellular organism, these waste must then be excreted from the body. So one of the example for the plants are also it is being shown here, where the exchange of gases, they are taking place through the tiny structures which are present in the adaxial surface of the plant, that is at the lower surface of the plant, most of the terrestrial plants, and that is stomata. So here you can see how the stomata is able to you can say diffuse the and maintain the gaseous exchange level with respect to CO2 and O2. So The next example for the living characteristic which the organism they are holding is the presence of the definite lifespan the organism they are having. So what is a lifespan? So lifespan is basically defined as the period from the birth to the natural death of the organism. It can vary from very few days to as long as the number of years it can have the organism can live on the surface of the earth. So life span cannot necessarily correlated with the sizes of the organisms. It may be misnomer to you can say that the smaller organisms, since their body structure or their appearance is too low, or you can say if they are too short or too small, then they will have a shorter lifespan. It's not like that. So as here you can see the different species with different lifespans, which is being taken as an example. So I have taken at least example of 17 members or organisms with different lifespans. So a mayfly is having a lifespan of 1 day. Likewise, a banyan tree may have 200 to 300 years of lifespan, and likewise Sequoia dendron, it's a gymnosperm. So it can have the lifespan of 3000 years to 4000 years. So you can imagine how different sort of organisms they are having different set of lifespans with respect to the physiological and biological functions. They are actually coordinating with the environment. Likewise, the another living characteristic is the control and coordination. So the working together of the various organs in an organism, actually it is a quality which is present at the most of the organisms of higher level. So multicellular organisms, they are basically saying this. In those organisms we are actually seeing this property. So what happens, the organism is able to properly coordinate with the different organs of the body in a proper response, and this stimulus is basically the coordination. So example for this coordination is nervous system in case of human beings. Cellular organization, as you can see the picture here, where most of the organisms, living organism, so the lowest form of the existence which the organism is having is which is being expressed in the terms of atomic level. Then when atoms they aggregate and they form ultimately either heteroatomic molecule or homoatomic molecule. Likewise, these molecules, when they aggregate into the different chemicals, and these chemicals when they form different protoplasm, cytoplasmic structures, and the cell membranes, they ultimately lead to the formation of a single cell. It could be a prokaryotic or eukaryotic cell, and ultimately cells, when they aggregate, they form tissues they convert or they form the organs. An organ develops into the organ system, and ultimately these organ system, they comprise the body of the organisms. And ultimately these organisms, the community of these organisms, they may form the population, and these populations, they form different communities, and they are the part of different ecosystems, and different ecosystem, they basically compromises the biosphere. So this is actually the hierarchy of the cellularity of the most of the organisms what we have. So let's see what is the actual meaning of this cellular organization. Basically, the body of the multicellular organisms, such as the tree or a cat, it exhibit organization at several you can say ranks or levels. So what are these levels? These are the level of structures they are forming from one stage to next stage. So cells, when they aggregate, they form tissues, and tissues, when they aggregate, they form the organs. Likewise, organ systems. So similar cells, when they are grouped into tissues, group of tissues make up the organs, and organs with the similar function and you can say specific role, they are grouped into an organ. And likewise, they are being placed in a hierarchical system, or you can say in a ranked way. So next example is of the type of nutrition of food the organism they are taking. So this is the basic quality what organism they are having. So main modes of nutrition in plants and animals are basically the autotrophic mode. So plants and some of the bacteria, they have the green pigments, that is chlorophyll, to help them to synthesize the food. So while animals, fungi and other bacteria, they depend upon the organisms for the food or nutritional purpose, they are actually the heterotrophs, and the mode of nutrition is the heterotrophic nutrition. So based on these, there are two main modes of nutrition: autotrophic and heterotrophic. So I have taken the example for these two nutrition. So here we can see here, whenever the plants or any other organism which is having this character, in which they are able to synthesize the chemical nature of the sun's energy, that is solar energy, into the food form, that is glucose, starch either, or it could be a you can say cellulose. So such type of processes are basically coming into the particular category, that is photosynthesis. As you can see, the name suggests, photons are the energy particles or packets which are being obtained by the solar energy, and these energy packets basically they are being captured by the organelles or the systems which are there for the synthesis of these energy utilization, centers for these energy utilization. So here in case of plants, it's the chlorophyll. So chlorophyll basically converts the chemical form of sunlight into the food form, in which the organism they can intake those or they can utilize those organic form of material for their you can say biological functions. Likewise, the organisms which directly intake the autotroph or the plants for their nutritional requirement, they are basically the heterotrophs. So one of the animal, that is one goat, is being shown here to show such examples through which we can say that most of the heterotrophs, they generally feed on the or they depend upon the plants for their nutritional requirement. Likewise, most of the characters which I have dealt here, they include the characters which the living organisms they exhibit, and whenever we compare a non-living structure or a non-living component present in the nature, we can easily distinguish the characters which are present in a living system with respect to the non-living system. So my purpose is to make you understand how you are able to classify certain set you can say whatever information or whatever organism or you can say substance you are perceiving in nature, and you can easily identify or distinguish that particular structure either into the category of living structure or a non-living structure. So based on these characters which we have already discussed in this information section, you can easily classify the organisms into a living being or non-living being. That's it. Thank you.